We are in Freehold, New Jersey, at the residence of Irvin Solomon, a World War II veteran of the European Theater of Operations. Irvin served with the Merchant Marine, and we would like to hear his story here today. I am Carol Fowler. Today is March 24th, 2015. Good morning, Irvin. Thank you for letting me come here today.
You're welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you. And we'll say how you heard about the project was through your neighbor's son, Mike.
Yes.
Okay. And let's go back to life before the war. Tell me about your family and if anybody served before you in your family.
No.
Oh.
No one served before me.
Okay.
I graduated at the University of Alabama in 1942. I got noticed to appear before the War Shipping Administration.
You got drafted? No.
I was drafted.
You were, okay. Where did your family live? Where were you born?
I was born in New York City. Lived in Pennsylvania, lived in New Jersey, lived in many other places.
Why was that?
My father passed away when I was a youngster, and my mother had to work, and as I grew up a little bit, I worked too, also.
How old were you?
As a child, I worked.
Oh.
And this went on quite a while, and later on I went through high school, and my mother worked for somebody that was Republican, and he said that you can go to school, and that worked during the summertime for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see to it, which he did. And I went down south to Alabama, went to school there, came back.
What did you major in? What's your degree?
Secondary education. However, there was a war on. And incidentally, while I was in school, the Japanese
Bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yes, Pearl Harbor.
So how did that change life for you? You got to stay in school and graduate?
I graduated.
Good for you.
And somebody said, report up in New York. They want to go to the training for a ship's officer.
Where was that in New York? Do you remember?
Gee, I don't remember, but it was...
Was it on Long Island?
Yes.
And how did you adjust from civilian to military life?
There was a war on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Jewish, so I had to do it. And
what are your memories from your training? How did you like your officers? Were they good?
yes, I was couldn't wait for to get into the office training, so I went into the place, they had a training for going in as a seaman, going in as a fireman, going in this and that. And I decided to go there. And first ship I was on.
Wait, was that the Merchant Marine then?
Merchant Marine.
Okay.
Was a collier. A collier is a ship that carries coal from Newport News to
Virginia
to somewhere in New England, I forget where it was. And I did 2 trips on that, and I figured out if the Germans had submarines going along the coast, I'd go down like a...
Oh, because your ship was so heavy with cargo?
Yes.
What was your job on that ship? The collier ship?
Paymaster. I had to pay the crew.
Did you have a general quarters station on the ship?
Not on that ship.
Oh, okay. Did you get off the ship when you...
I got off the ship and got on another ship. And that wasn't very successful because the captain and I didn't agree.
On how to do the pay?
Do the pay, so on and so forth.
And what kind of ship was that? Another collier ship?
No, that was a cargo ship.
Okay.
Then I reported to the War Shipping Administration. Incidentally, they got me a uniform in New York, and I didn't wear that very often, but I did wear it. And,
for fancy occasions when
yeah.
VIPs were around?
Yes.
So that other cargo ship, was that also stateside, or did it go?
State.
Okay. Let's make sure that we mention all of the places where you were.
All right. Then I got on another ship from the War Shipping Administration. I forget the name of it. And went up to New England, loaded cargo, and started out to go to Europe. And
What do you remember of that voyage?
well, hold on.
Okay.
And as we left, we hit a storm, and the ships didn't go any faster than the slowest ship.
It was a convoy, right?
Yeah. And with the storm, we went every which way until we got back in the quarters, and then we went over into Europe.
Do you remember when that was? Before D-Day? Was it 1943, 44?
Before D-Day. I'll give you D-Day in there too. And we went into Newport News in
So the storm was in the North Atlantic?
yeah.
You went into England or Scotland?
Scotland.
Okay.
And I became friendly with the armed guard officer, the army officer that was in charge of the cargo, and myself were friendly. So as we were waiting for instructions and whatnot, we'd leave the ship and take walks. We went into a Red Cross club one night, and we sat down and started to have something, and they came over and said, "You're not a soldier, you can't eat here."
Oh, wow.
Red Cross.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Red Cross is verboten as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So we left and we went into a Navy club. We ate there. We were their guests. And things went nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would often take walks. And we'd walk up the countryside and any which way, and after a while we still waiting for orders to go to France or what have you, and we went out to, it was a Navy club, British Navy club. They knew who we were, where we walked, and everything else. They thought we were spies at first.
Oh, why was that?
Because we were looking at different places and going different places.
Oh, the British intelligence were following you.
Yes.
That is so interesting.
It was interesting. We enjoyed that.
So how did you convince them who you were?
When we walked in, we were convinced. They were convinced.
Oh, okay.
Which was very, very nice. Then we went down to New York
New York.
to load cargo.
You went from England back to New York?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of ship did you go in then? Not the same one, right?
No, I don't remember the name of the ship.
What kind of ship?
It was one that was made by out on the West Coast, what they call them, a welded ship.
Oh. I never heard of that kind.
Yeah.
Did it hold a lot of men?
We had a crew. We had the Army
Armed guard?
armed guard. We had everything else.
Was that the year that the U-boats were a huge problem in the Atlantic?
Yes. And we went up to Halifax,
Nova Scotia?
Nova Scotia, waited for our escort to take us across the Atlantic. And with a storm, the ships got scattered, and they had to get back in order again. And the escort had to go ahead because of the Germans had submarines in the area. So we had to go across sometime without escort.
But that way you could move faster, right? You could zigzag?
As fast as the slowest ship. And we weren't that fast.
Okay.
And we got to where we go first? I'm trying to think. Oh. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to think of the... We went to... slow it down. Glasgow.
Again, you went back to Scotland?
Not Scotland, no, not Glasgow. Come on.
Gibraltar?
Oh, no.
Uh-huh.
We went by Gibraltar, but never around it.
Southern England?
Yeah, the place was I went there, sat down in the bar room, and men were sitting alongside, and they all of a sudden said, "Time, gentlemen." In other words, they closed the bar, and I got up to leave, and they said, "You don't have to leave, Yank." And they opened up again, and I had beer, what have you, and it was very, very nice. And then I'd go back to the ship, and I'd bring in some fruit and things that they could take home, which they didn't have.
Oh, nice.
They appreciated that. That was good. I'm trying to think of the port, but that was one of my experiences. Another was we would go to bring cargo into a port in England, and that's when we would take our walks. But one time the Army was in charge of the cargo, and he says, "Come on down the hold, I'll show you what we have." And as we were going along, the ship would rock, roll, and go up and down. And believe me, I had the good experience in that.
So you didn't get seasick?
No, I got sick of the sea.
Oh, I see.
But it was a good experience in that. When we got to England, I couldn't leave the ship because I had to give the crew money to spend ashore.
Oh.
And some other things. So I never got ashore in England.
I thought you said you walked around the countryside.
Yeah, that was further up.
Oh, okay.
And
You never got ashore in southern England.
No, no. And
That reminds me, how would you get the pay? Who would give it to you? What was that process?
we had it aboard. I had the money when we left port.
Who would give it to you, though? An office in New York?
Yeah,
And so they would have to count it out. I'm sure there was a procedure that you
Yeah.
had to do. And was it script money or?
well, when we got into foreign ports, we used what they call, what do you call it, money? They're
Script? Military script?
military script.
Yes.
And but I would exchange it with the value of U.S. dollars, so I know that. And we would also, while waiting for orders, we would get down in the lifeboat and go sail one direction and then go back the other, and
Oh.
that hurt.
Oh, for exercise?
Exercise.
Oh, I see.
And
In the daytime, right?
in the daytime.
And it was safe, I guess?
It was safe. We were in port,
Oh, okay.
and that was one of the things that I did.
What was in the lifeboat? Did it have a pocket with provisions?
Yes,
Did you
Yeah.
check that out?
always.
What else was in there? Of course, there were oars,
Oars, a sail,
provisions.
so on and so
What
forth.
about pliers and fishing line?
I guess
Oh, okay.
we come back up, raise up again. Later on, we went into port with supplies and discharge it in I guess that was England or Scotland, I forget which. I think it was Scotland that we unloaded, and then one of the men that helped load the ship said, "Come on, let's take a ride." And they had one of these ducks that,
An amphibious vehicle?
yes, came ashore, and then he got onto a Jeep. And the Jeep had a bar in front of it. I said, "What's that for?" He says, "At night, the Germans would put piano wire across the road. And if we didn't have the bar there to break it,
Oh.
so
So now you're in Normandy then, right? You're in France?
not yet,
Not yet?
not yet." And
So the ducks were amphibious vehicles, boats used for D-Day, and they were practicing in England.
right,
Okay.
and he took me into the officers' mess, place to eat. And when the general came in, everybody had to stand up.
What was your rank?
My rank,
You were a college graduate.
I was a college graduate. I didn't mean that much. I was purser. Purser took care of the money and the crew and what have you. They also had training in medicine, care, what have you.
Who did?
I did,
Oh.
along with the other people.
So you were kind of like the corpsman?
Yes. And
Was there a pharmacist aboard?
me.
That was you?
That was me.
Wow, you were everything.
Yes.
So did you have people who worked under you, like assistant pursers?
No. No, no.
So what was a typical day like for you on the aboard ship with all of your duties that you had?
Well, unfortunately, when the crew went ashore, VD was very popular.
Very common ailment.
Yes. And I had to take care of them.
You had antibiotics?
Start with, we had sulfur pills first.
Sulfa drugs?
Yeah, and then it changed to the antibiotics,
Penicillin?
penicillin.
That wasn't discovered at the time, but then it was?
Then it was.
So that must have made a huge difference, right?
Yes. And we were, as I say, had the cargo. And then we went down to Plymouth.
Plymouth?
Yeah,
Is that England?
yeah. And again, the crew would go ashore, and I didn't have that much chance, except I got off one time, and I got on a bus and took a round trip around and found out what the countryside was like, which was interesting. And
What was it like? Did it have a lot of equipment from us there?
the bus,
No, a lot.
oh yes,
The
there was
countryside.
a lot there, because my sister had a friend that was what was he? He wasn't a dentist. He was something with medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted me to bring something over to him, which I did.
In England, there was somebody who was related?
Friendly,
Oh, a friend. Uh-huh.
and I gave him that, and
Were you married at the time?
no,
Did you write to your mother and get packages?
I couldn't get packages, and I couldn't write.
Why?
If I wrote, most of it would be crossed off.
Oh.
We couldn't put where we were, how we were, or what have you.
Really? That's a shame.
No, that was necessary.
You couldn't even write how you were? That you were still doing okay, or?
Well, everything is fine. That's it.
Right.
That's it. That's all you could do. Couldn't say where you were at, how you got there, or what have you.
So for the years that you were overseas, you didn't get any mail yourself?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That must have been hard for you.
No.
No?
No, we got used to it.
Oh, okay. You're still in England, Plymouth.
Plymouth. And then we trying to
Get it in order.
get it in order, yes. Then we started to get ready to load for France, and we
What were you loading? What kind of cargo?
Armaments.
Oh.
And armaments and what do you call it? Soldiers.
Troops.
Troops. And since we had nurses aboard, several of us gave up our quarters and let them stay in our quarters, and we slept in the officers' mess. And they wanted to lock the door. I said, you can't lock a door here because if you get hit, the door's jammed and you can't get out. So they finally agreed to that, and they said, don't worry about us, we'll just put on our Jesus shoes and walk across the water if we get hit.
So, oh, okay.
That, and then we had the doctor had a bulldog, and he got ashore with the bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you were transporting the medical corps?
at one time, yes.
So did you have news of what was happening in France, D-Day, and the amount of casualties?
Later on, we what was it? We were going across, and they said make smoke to hide the ships. We made smoke, went forward, and we were hidden. We weren't hidden.
Oh.
So we had to fire up at the German, what do you call it?
The pillboxes, where they were?
Yeah, and we were exposed, but we got over that. And then later on, we went to France, and the first group of men that got off hit a mine of some sort and never made it ashore.
From your ship?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
and we were quite upset about that because we had binoculars, we could see what happened. And
Do you remember what beach it was? Utah Beach, Omaha Beach?
what was the first beach?
Omaha Beach?
Omaha, I think. No,
Utah?
Utah, I think.
Okay.
Then we watched the troops getting off, what happened there. Then,
Were the Germans still firing, or was it
yes,
more
they were still firing, and we were
Okay.
firing back at them.
on D-Day +4, right?
Yeah, and when that happened, my job was to be with the gunners, taking the empty shells out, but they were coming out so fast, I thought we were being hit. So I jumped behind a ready box. A ready box is where they kept the ammunition. And by the time I got there, I realized, what am I doing here?
Oh, because that could explode, right?
Yes. But Then we got we landed troops on DDay +4.
Right.
And we watched them going ashore, and all of them didn't make it.
What about the nurses?
The nurses, we forgot about them.
But they got off the ship too?
Yeah, they got off the ship, but I don't think they were ashore yet. And DDay +4 is when we got there.
So what kind of boats would they get to shore on if they left?
Landing craft.
Landing craft.
And some made it, some
Right.
didn't.
There were a lot of obstacles in the way for the landing craft.
Yes, yes. And we want to put more ashore on DDay +4.
So all of these visuals that you saw, it must have really changed the morale, because before you guys were kidding around when you first left England,
Yes,
kidding around about Jesus walking on the water and things
Yeah.
like that. And now all of a sudden you have this reality in front of you.
yes.
And how do you remember feeling at that time? The change in the morale, or?
You had training on what to do, and we did it.
You were trained on feeding the gun to the gunner, feeding the ammo?
Yes,
You were trained?
yes.
Okay.
And incidentally, as we were going into DDay +4, a big passenger ship that let troops off came out, and it hit a vine, and it went up in the air and down, just like in the movies. You ever go to the movies and see a ship going down?
Titanic?
Yeah, same thing. Boom.
So were there minesweepers to try and avoid that? Minesweepers or no?
There was mines down there.
Right.
That the ship hit. But then we let our troops off, and
And the Coast Guard was there getting the survivors out of the water? Did you see the Coast Guard there?
no, the Coast Guard wasn't there.
Did you see ships from horizon to horizon? And aircraft?
Yes,
It was-
yes. And then we had to go up the Seine River with ammunition for Battle of the Bulge. And while going up the river, the Germans would fire at us. I stayed in my cabin, no use me being out there.
Okay.
And then when we got up there, the ship was had mail on the bulkhead, that's the outside, and ammunition inside.
So you brought mail to the soldiers fighting the Battle of the Bulge?
Yes, except that they didn't get the mail
Why not?
because the Germans were firing at us. And when we got there, they unloaded the what mail they had left.
Oh, the mail got lost. From
Yeah.
the fighting.
And we had Negro troops had Germans unload the ammunition.
Was that the Red Ball Express?
I don't know what they call
Oh, okay.
it. And
German prisoners?
German prisoners.
So that was a dangerous job, right? Unloading the ammunition?
Yes.
Were there ever any accidents with that?
Nope.
Oh, that's good. And that was the coldest winter on record, right? Do you remember
It was
that?
cold. It was cold.
Did you have adequate coats, hats, gloves?
Yes. Yes. We had pea coats and
Warm hat.
warm hats. And fortunately, we didn't have to go up to Russia because that was really dangerous.
Oh, the Merchant Marine did go to Russia, yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh, okay.
we got back out.
Did you have air support while you were on the Seine River? Did you have aircrafts helping you?
No.
I think there was weather problems, right? Cloudy.
No, what we had balloons on the ships that were up high. So if an airplane came down, it would have to hit the balloon, and they'd crash.
Because that was a problem, that aircraft were crashing into the ships?
Would crash into the ship. None of them crashed into us.
Obviously. You're here today.
Yes.
Wow. You're a survivor. Did anyone ever tell you that?
Well, it happened. I had training and everything.
And how were the black troops treated? Or you didn't have them on your ship, they just came up to the ship?
Blacks? Oh, we had some of the blacks in the crew.
Oh, okay. With the Merchant Marine?
Yes. Yes.
So everyone got along?
Everybody got along.
Good.
Now, the time we were going through the Suez Canal,
Okay.
and the Egyptians mispronounced my name. Solomon or Solomon, S-A-L. S-A-L sounds to them okay. So we went through and went through the other end and discharged our cargoes. And I asked the captain, what am I going to do about this? He says, you're making up the ship's papers. Do what you want. So I did. I made my name Kelly. And the crew went along with me.
Okay.
So we had a little Jewish boy down in the engine room. They wanted to know where he was. I says, he got sick and we had to leave him off at the last port. Hide him.
Are you saying there was anti-Semitism in Egypt?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, now I gotcha. How long were you there?
Just went through the canal and over into the other side to Saudi Arabia.
What was your mission?
To Saudi Arabia, we had cargo for them.
What kind of cargo?
I don't remember.
Not troops.
No, not troops. And I had to go ashore with the ship's papers. So I put on a uniform. I had a gun here. When I got up to the dock, no Jews allowed beyond this port.
Wow.
In uniform, salute me, took care of my business, and came back.
Did your uniform have your name on it?
Nope.
Nobody's uniform had their name on it, like
No.
the Army? Okay.
Nope.
So did you feel a little victorious that you got away with that?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. And also, what's that country now that the... oh, come on.
Tunisia?
No.
Morocco?
No.
Iraq? Turkey? Kuwait? Iran?
Oh, Iran. Now, we also went into Iran. Now, when we went into Iran, they had the it was
The Shah?
Shaw, yeah. And so we unloaded something there, and we went into a British club, and then came out and left.
Oh, because the British were there in Iran?
Yeah. And that was at a different time of life that they have now in Iran. Iran right now is that doesn't believe in the United States.
Oh, so you mean it was a different time because you were welcome into
Yes.
the country?
Yes.
I thought maybe you meant how they were doing economically.
Oh, in order to cut the grass, they used to use scissors when I was there.
Okay.
And today, no. But
They took pride in their country and
yes,
they were doing well then,
yes,
in the 40s.
yes. Then we left there. Then I said we went to Saudi Arabia, and I went there.
Egypt.
Egypt, they thought I was an Egyptian.
What? Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Why was that? You looked Egyptian?
Solomon,
Oh. Okay.
the name.
Oh, now I see. Okay.
We had a German fella on our ship. He says, wait till I take off my cross, I'll do something. I says, don't fool around with them. They finally didn't.
So you had German prisoners with you?
No, we had no German prisoners.
Oh, okay.
They had German prisoners unloading. What else? I also had on one of our trips, it seemed to me somebody had appendicitis.
So you had to get him off the ship?
Had to get him off the ship, which I did. He had appendicitis.
Where did you get him off the ship?
In Italy.
What was happening in Italy at the time?
Nothing.
The combat was over?
Yeah,
The Italians had pretty much given up?
yeah. Hello.
Alright, so you had to get the sailor or whatever off the ship.
Yeah,
Because he was very sick.
yeah, he had appendicitis.
He needed surgery.
Right.
So you
And-
went to England.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, Italy, you said.
Italy. So until I could hear something, a friar or some
You didn't just leave him there, you had to wait for him?
I had to wait for a notice about him. And
If he made it or not?
yeah, and this Italian individual, he was a friar. What do you call him?
Oh, he was like a priest?
Yeah, he was like a priest, but not a priest.
Okay.
He says, "Sit, we find out. No rush."
And meanwhile, the ship is waiting, right?
Yeah. And no, the ship was in port. And then he had a sister bring some,
Wine?
not wine, stronger than wine.
Whiskey?
Yeah. And then I decided I better get back to the ship. He says, I says, will you call a taxi for me? No taxi, no taxi. He says, you take bus. I was in uniform. The bus didn't charge.
That was nice.
But it was funny. I also had a situation where one of the crew members, when dementia prefects or something, I remember the disease, but he was a little going, what have you.
Oh, okay.
So I got him to an Army hospital, and it took me 20 minutes to convince him it wasn't me, it was him.
Why?
Because they were stupid. And they
So he had combat fatigue? That's what they called it then?
Yeah. And they finally let me go, and I went back to the ship. But to show you some of the things that happened.
Mm-hmm. So did the sailor make it out okay with the appendicitis?
Yes. Yes.
And where did you go from Italy? So you had a mission in the Mediterranean then, right?
Yeah.
And you said you don't remember what the cargo was that you were giving to the Middle East? That
No.
we were giving to the Middle East?
No.
Is it confidential?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Even if I guess, you won't tell me.
No.
Okay.
Also, while I was in Italy, I took a walk one day, and as I was walking up the street, have you ever gone to a movie where everything goes away except the one high picture you saw?
Mm-hmm.
This was there. Walking towards me was somebody that went to grammar school with me.
Wow.
I brought him aboard, gave him a good meal,
Small world.
let him go,
Wow.
and
Who recognized who? You both?
I recognized him.
Oh, okay. And that's the only time you ever saw him?
They over there, yeah,
But you had said earlier that you moved around a lot, so you
Yeah.
probably didn't see him again.
no.
It's very interesting.
Just the things that happened.
Yes. Oh. It's nice.
The same as up in Scotland. When we were there, I walked into a bar, and she says, "I'm sorry, Yank, we're closed now." I says, "Gee, I came all the way up to Scotland for a drink." She said, well, she gave me one. Gave it to me. I didn't buy it.
Oh, I see.
Which was nice.
Yes. That's nice.
Now, what else do you want?
Well, let's talk about when you came home then. That's all that happened over there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you came home. Do you remember coming home, your homecoming?
When we came home, we were just coming home.
And then you got out of the Merchant Marines?
After a while, yes.
You stayed in for a job?
I stayed in for a job.
Okay.
I stayed in the Merchant Marine for a job.
And then after a while, I guess you got sick of being at sea, you said earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you changed to, did you use your degree? Did you become a teacher?
No.
Oh.
No, because the war was over. It didn't pay to be a teacher.
Oh, I see. So what did you end up doing? You got married?
After a while, I got married.
Uh-huh.
What happened is we came back by ship to somebody, and while coming back, we bought an Italian bologna or something that dripped, so I put it in my shower room, let it drain there, and then we cut it in half, and he had half and I had half. And then I went to my sister's, and my feet were bothering me, and I used to have to go push my step up and up and up, and that was basically everything. And we had a housewarming in Fort Lee, and the inspector for when we came into Fort Newark invited his wife, and she couldn't come, so he brought his sister, and she's the person I married.
Oh. Had a feeling that's what you were going to say. So you had a happy ending to your long-year military life overseas.
Yes.
How do you feel about the time that you were in service?
Didn't bother me.
Looking back, you must feel proud of your accomplishments?
Yes. Yes.
Like I said earlier, Irvin, you are a survivor, and I'm happy that I'm here today to speak with you of your sacrifice and contributions that you made in service to your country. Thank you, Irvin, and God bless you.
Well, we were carried a card with us that said we're part of the Navy.
I want to show this now. Like you mentioned, the War Shipping Administration.
Yeah.
That you have the Merchant Marine Combat Bar.
Yeah.
You have the Atlantic War Zone Bar.
Yeah.
And you have the Mediterranean Middle East War Zone Bar.
Yes.
It looks like you also have the World War II Victory Medal.
Yes.
And I guess that's the New Jersey medal that you got.
Yes.
Meritorious Service.
Yes.
And I have that right here as well.
All right.
Do you want to talk about when you got this? You didn't get this in the mail. You got this in person, right?
I think so.
Somebody helped you arrange for this? Are you a part of any group that helps you do that?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you got that. And I'm glad that Mike told me about you and that I came here today.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay.